From sex goddess to angry old woman, Brigitte Bardot's transformation will make your jaw drop. The star who once posed nude and broke every rule now hides in a house filled with stray animals. Her beauty is gone. Her famous blonde hair turned gray decades ago. Her perfect face is now deeply wrinkled. Even worse, she's been fined 5 times for hateful comments about immigrants. The most shocking part? She refuses to apologize for how she looks or what she says. Brigitte Bardot was born on September 28, 1934, in Paris. Her family was wealthy, and she grew up in a world of privilege. Her father, Louis Bardot, was an engineer and owned several factories. Her mother, Anne-Marie Moussel, came from a well-connected family. They lived in a large apartment in the 16th arrondissement, an elegant neighborhood known for its beautiful parks and upscale homes. Brigitte's childhood was filled with trips to luxurious holiday spots like Megève in the Alps, La Baule on the Atlantic coast, and Saint-Tropez on the Mediterranean. Her family was close but strict. They had affectionate nicknames for each other. Brigitte was called Bri-Bri. Her sister, Marie-Jeanne, was Mijanou, and their parents were known as Pilou and Toti. But behind the warmth, there were rules. Her parents were conservative Catholics who demanded obedience and discipline. Brigitte and her sister had to follow strict etiquette. Their mother chose their friends carefully, making sure they only associated with the right people. This left Brigitte feeling isolated. One day, when Brigitte and her sister were young, they accidentally broke a valuable vase in their home. Their father was furious. He punished them by whipping them 20 times. After that, he insisted they address their parents using the formal vous instead of the familiar tu. The shift in language made their home feel colder. It was no longer just about rules. It was about control. Brigitte began to resent the strict world she was raised in. The one thing that gave her a sense of freedom was ballet. Her mother encouraged her talent and enrolled her in the Conservatoire de Paris. She trained under Russian choreographer Boris Knyazev for 3 years. Ballet was demanding, but it was also an escape. On stage, she could express herself in a way she never could at home. By the time she was 14, Brigitte's beauty was impossible to ignore. Her mother arranged for her to model for Elle magazine. In 1950, at the age of 15, she appeared on the cover. That one moment changed her life. Suddenly, film producers were interested in her. She was offered a role in Les Lauriers Sont Coupés, but she didn't get the part. The audition, however, introduced her to Roger Vadim. He was a young, aspiring filmmaker. More importantly, he saw something in Brigitte that others didn't. Brigitte Bardot's journey to stardom began in 1952. She was just 18 when she made her film debut in Le Trou Normand, Crazy for Love, a light-hearted comedy directed by Jean Boyer. That same year, she took on a more daring role in Manina, La Fille Sans Voile, The Girl in the Bikini, a film that hinted at the image that would later define her career. These early roles were not groundbreaking, but they helped her get noticed. She had the kind of screen presence that drew people in. French cinema was filled with young actresses at the time, yet something about Bardot stood out. Her career moved quickly. Between 1952 and 1956, she appeared in 17 films. Most were light romantic dramas or comedies that played to her youthful charm. She was often cast as a playful and carefree young woman, and audiences loved it. At the same time, her personal life was drawing just as much attention as her films. She had fallen in love with Roger Vadim, a writer and aspiring filmmaker. They met when she was 15 and married in 1952, the same year her film career began. Vadim would later play a crucial role in shaping her career, but at this point, Bardot was still seen as just another pretty face in French cinema. In 1953, she got her first taste of Hollywood in Un acte d'amour, Act of Love, directed by Anatole Litvak and starring Kirk Douglas. It was a small role, but it gave her a chance to work outside of France. The film didn't make her famous internationally, yet it was a step toward something bigger. Everything changed in 1956. That was the year she starred in Et Dieu, Créa la femme, and God Created Woman, directed by Vadim. He knew exactly how to showcase Bardot's natural appeal, and he built the entire film around her. She played Juliette Hardy, a free-spirited young woman living in Saint-Tropez. The character was wild, rebellious, and completely unashamed of her desires. For audiences in the 1950s, this was something new. Female characters in mainstream films were rarely this bold. The film was released in France in 1956 and made an immediate impact, but it wasn't until its US release in 1957 that Bardot became a worldwide sensation. American audiences were fascinated by her. The film was heavily edited to meet strict Hollywood censorship rules, yet even with those cuts, it caused a stir. Some critics called it scandalous, others praised it for its artistic vision. What mattered most was that Bardot had become a star. The press gave her a new title, Sex Kitten. It was a term meant to capture her youthful energy and sensuality. She had an effortless way of commanding attention. She didn't need to try too hard, and that was what made her different. Some saw her as a symbol of liberation, a woman who lived on her own terms. Others saw her as just another Hollywood fantasy. Either way, she was impossible to ignore. Bardot and Vadim continued working together after And God Created Woman. He directed her again in The Night Heaven Fell in 1958 and Les Bijoux de la Castafiore in 1961. Their creative partnership was strong, but their marriage couldn't survive the pressure of fame. They divorced in 1957, though they remained close. Vadim had played a major role in shaping Bardot's career, but by this point, she didn't need his help to stay in the spotlight. Her image as a sex symbol only grew stronger with each new role. Films like Naughty Girl and Plucking the Daisy, both 1956, leaned into her flirtatious, carefree persona. Directors knew what audiences wanted, and Bardot delivered. By the late 1950s, she was more than just an actress. She had become a cultural icon. Her blonde hair, her effortless style, and her ability to make even the simplest scene feel electric turned her into one of the most photographed women in the world. But fame came with a cost. The Sex Kitten label gave her immense power in the industry, yet it also limited her. Many filmmakers saw her as a beautiful face rather than a serious actress. Some of her later films tried to challenge that perception, but the public had already made up its mind. She was a symbol of beauty and desire, and that was how the world wanted to see her. Her influence extended far beyond film. In 1969, France chose her as the model for Marianne, the national symbol of liberty. It was a rare honor, proving that Bardot was more than just a movie star. She had become a symbol of an era. Her career was built on more than just looks. She represented change. She embodied the spirit of a new generation, one that rejected old rules and embraced freedom. Brigitte Bardot's career was filled with bold choices and unforgettable performances. She wasn't just a glamorous actress. She took on complex roles that explored love, betrayal, revolution, and personal freedom. Some of her films became massive hits, while others gained recognition over time. But each one played a part in shaping her legacy. In 1960, She starred in The Truth, La Vérité, a courtroom drama directed by Henri-Georges Clouzot. This film became her biggest success in France, drawing nearly 5.7 million viewers and earning her the David di Donatello Award for Best Foreign Actress. It told the story of Dominique Marceau, a young woman on trial for killing her lover. Bardot's performance was intense and emotional, showing a depth that surprised many critics. The film was groundbreaking in its themes, focusing on love, betrayal, and society's judgment of women. While it was a huge hit in France and across Europe, it struggled in the United States, making only around $500,000 at the box office. But that didn't take away from its impact. Bardot later called it one of her favorite films, and many consider it her best performance. 3 years later, in 1963, she worked with Jean-Luc Godard on Le Mépris, Contempt, one of the most influential films of the French New Wave. This was a turning point in her career. Instead of playing the typical glamorous role, she took on something more complex. She played Camille Javal, the wife of a screenwriter who gets caught between artistic ambition and commercial pressure. The film was visually stunning, with breathtaking shots of Italian landscapes by cinematographer Raoul Coutard. Its long, reflective scenes and philosophical tone made it different from anything Bardot had done before. It wasn't a big commercial hit at the time, but over the years, it became a cult classic. Today, it's studied in film schools and recognized as one of the greatest films of the era. More importantly, it showed that Bardot was capable of handling serious, intellectual roles, not just the ones that made her a sex symbol. Then came Viva Maria. In 1965, a film that took her career in a completely new direction. Directed by Louis Malle, it was an action-packed comedy adventure starring Bardot and Jeanne Moreau. The story followed two women, both named Maria, who worked as performers in a traveling circus before getting caught up in the Mexican Revolution. It was funny, fast-paced, and unlike anything she had done before. Bardot played Maria too, a rebellious young woman who went from being a tomboy to a revolutionary leader. The film was filled with humor, action, and even a bit of political satire. It was a huge success, and the chemistry between Bardot and Moreau made it even more special. Audiences loved the way it showed strong, independent women leading their own adventure, something that wasn't common in films at the time. By the early 1970s, Bardot was ready to leave acting behind. She starred in her final films in 1973, including Don Juan, or If Don Juan Were a Woman, and the edifying and joyous story of Coligno. In Don Juan, she played a female version of the legendary seducer, flipping the classic story on its head. The film explored themes of love and power, showing Bardot in a bold and provocative role. Coligno was more experimental and less successful, but it was one of the last times audiences saw her on screen. After more than 20 years in the industry, Bardot retired from acting and shifted her focus to animal rights activism. She became deeply involved in the cause, dedicating her life to protecting animals. Though her later years were sometimes controversial, her influence on cinema remained strong. She had been more than just a beautiful actress. She had taken risks, played complicated roles, and helped redefine what women could do in film. Brigitte Bardot's love life was as intense and unpredictable as the films that made her famous. Her first great love was Roger Vadim. She met him when she was just 16, and he was 22. He was already part of the film world, introducing her to cinema, art, and literature, including Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex. Bardot's parents disapproved, but she was determined. On December 20th, 1952, just 3 months after turning 18, She married Vadim at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. He became more than a husband. He was a mentor, guiding her as she stepped into the world of acting. Their marriage burned with passion, but everything changed in 1956. Vadim directed her in And God Created Woman, the film that made her an international sensation. On set, she fell in love with her co-star, Jean-Louis Trintignant. The affair was impossible to hide. By April 1957, her marriage to Vadim was over. He accepted it with surprising calm, later saying he preferred a wife full of spirit and adventure, rather than one who was simply faithful. Even after their divorce, he remained a key figure in her life. He went on to marry Jane Fonda and had a daughter, Vanessa Vadim, while Bardot kept moving forward, drawn to new passions and new faces. Jean-Louis Trintignant was different from Vadim. Their affair lasted about 2 years, filled with deep passion, but also long separations due to Trintignant's military service. He had been married to Stéphane Audran, but just like Bardot, he was willing to risk it all. Vadim, still involved in Bardot's career, encouraged them to bring their real-life chemistry onto the screen, making And God Created Woman even more controversial. Eventually, the distance between them became too much. Bardot moved on, this time to French singer Gilbert Bécaud. By 1959, her life took another turn. She met Jacques Charrier while filming Babette Goes to War. Their romance moved quickly, leading to a wedding on June 18, 1959, in Louveciennes. She wore a pink gingham dress designed by Jacques Esterel. A year later, on January 11, 1960, she gave birth to her only child, Nicolas Jacques Charrier. But Bardot struggled with motherhood. She never felt ready for it. As she continued her acting career, her marriage started to fall apart. During this time, she had an affair with Canadian-American actor Glenn Ford. The situation became impossible to ignore. On November 20th, 1962, she and Charrier divorced. He gained full custody of their son, and Bardot had little contact with Nicolas for many years. That same year, she fell in love again. This time, it was Sammy Frey, her co-star from The Truth. Their relationship was intense, but Bardot's restless nature meant nothing lasted for long. Her life was a constant search for freedom, both on screen and off. Then came Günter Sachs, the German millionaire who swept her off her feet in the most extravagant way. They met in May 1966 in Saint-Tropez, where Sachs was already known for his lavish lifestyle. Determined to win her over, he hired a helicopter and dropped thousands of roses onto her villa. The grand gesture worked. On July 14, 1966, just 2 months after they met, they married in Las Vegas. The date was no accident. It was Bastille Day, a symbolic moment for the union of a French actress and a German businessman. Their marriage was full of glamour but lacked stability. They often lived apart, each drawn to their own adventures. Bardot had an affair with singer Mike Sarn. Sachs was unfaithful as well. Despite the chaos, they separated on good terms, finalizing their divorce in October 1969. Sachs later said that a year with Bardot was worth 10 with anyone else. Their romance left a lasting impact, turning Saint-Tropez into the ultimate destination for the rich and famous. Brigitte Bardot was one of the most famous actresses of her time. She had starred in over 40 films and was known around the world. But in 1973, at just 39 years old, she made a decision that shocked everyone. She walked away from acting at the peak of her career. For years, she had lived under the constant pressure of fame, but it left her feeling empty. She later admitted in her memoirs that she was tired of the superficiality of the film industry. Instead of spending her life in front of cameras, she wanted to dedicate herself to something she truly cared about. "I gave my beauty and my youth to men. I am going to give my wisdom and experience to animals." That was the promise she made, and she kept it. Bardot became one of the first celebrities to use their fame for animal rights. She started by speaking out against the cruelty in slaughterhouses and encouraged people to stop eating meat. In 1977, she took on one of her biggest battles when she traveled to Canada to protest the hunting of baby harp seals. She posed with a seal pup on the ice, and the image spread across the world. It brought attention to the brutal practice and helped push countries like the US and the European Union to ban the import of seal products. Her activism didn't stop there. In 1986, Bardot created the Brigitte Bardot Foundation to protect animals. To fund it, she sold her jewelry and personal belongings, raising 3 million francs, which was about $430,000 at the time. By 1992, the foundation was officially recognized as a public utility in France, allowing it to grow even more. Today, it runs 4 sanctuaries in France that care for over 7,000 rescued animals. It also investigates more than 2,000 cases of animal abuse every year and works with groups like Eurogroup for Animals and the World Federation for Animals to fight for stronger laws. The Foundation's efforts go beyond France. It supports wildlife sanctuaries in different countries and has worked with international organizations to stop illegal wildlife trafficking. Bardot's activism has not always been easy. She has taken on causes that have made her a target of criticism. She has spoken out against bullfighting and called for bans on ritual animal slaughter. In 1994, she led a campaign against eating horse meat in France. Even after receiving death threats, she didn't back down. Her efforts helped bring stricter regulations on its sale and changed the way many people viewed the issue. She has also supported animal rights in other countries. In 2001, she donated over $140,000 to fund a mass sterilization program for stray dogs in Bucharest. In 2010, she wrote a letter to Denmark's Queen Margrethe II, condemning the killing of dolphins in the Faroe Islands. She has always made sure her voice is heard, often using the media to bring attention to animal cruelty. Her work has been recognized worldwide. She has received awards from organizations like UNESCO and PETA, and in 2014, her foundation had over 75,000 members. Even in her 90s, she has continued fighting for animal rights. She has urged world leaders to take stronger action against wildlife trafficking and habitat destruction. Though some of her political opinions have been controversial, her dedication to animals has remained constant. Brigitte Bardot was once one of the most famous actresses in the world. Now, she is remembered just as much for her fight to protect animals. She spent decades using her influence to create real change, proving that her legacy is not just in the films she made, but in the lives she helped save. Brigitte Bardot was once the face of French cinema. She was glamorous, talented, and adored by millions. But over time, she became just as famous for her controversial views. Her comments on immigration, Islam, and religious practices led to multiple legal battles. Instead of being remembered only as a film icon, she became a deeply divisive figure. Her troubles began in 1997 when she was convicted for inciting racial hatred. She had written an open letter complaining about foreign overpopulation in France, focusing on Muslim families. The conviction didn't stop her. In 2000, she published Pluto's Square, where she warned of an invasion of France. Then, in 2004, she released another book, A Cry in the Silence, where she linked Islam to the 9/11 attacks. She also spoke out against what she called the Islamization of France, claiming the country was being taken over. Each time, the courts found her guilty of violating France's anti-racism laws. Her husband's political connections only added to the controversy. He was an ally of Jean-Marie Le Pen, the leader of the far-right National Front. This fueled speculation that Bardot's views went beyond animal rights activism. She always insisted her words were only about protecting animals, but many saw a deeper political motive. Between 1997 and 2008, Bardot was convicted 5 times for similar offenses. At first, the fines were small. In 1997, she had to pay €1,500. But as she kept making similar remarks, the penalties increased. By 2008, she was fined €15,000 for statements she made in a 2006 publication. Prosecutors wanted her to serve 2 months in jail, but the court decided against it. Her legal troubles didn't end with fines. The courts ordered that details of her convictions be published in newsletters linked to her Animal Rights Foundation. This was meant to publicly expose her repeated offenses. Still, Bardot refused to change her stance. Her lawyer argued that she felt unfairly silenced, but wouldn't stop defending her beliefs. One of the most controversial issues was her opposition to religious slaughter. Bardot campaigned against halal and shachita methods, used by Muslims and Jews, calling them ritual sacrifices. She demanded that these practices be banned, along with the sale of horse meat. Her statements sparked outrage. Jewish and Muslim organizations condemned her remarks. The European Jewish Congress accused her of attacking Jewish traditions. Its president, Dr. Moshe Kantor, said she was ignoring the balance between religious freedom and animal welfare. Critics believed her opposition to these practices wasn't just about animals, but was part of a broader hostility toward minority groups. Her comments on religious slaughter also connected to her views on immigration. She often linked Eid al-Adha celebrations to what she saw as cultural imposition by Muslim immigrants. This fueled accusations of racism and xenophobia. Many believed her words echoed far-right ideology, making her even more controversial. Despite years of legal battles, Bardot never backed down. She faced growing fines and increasing public backlash, but she refused to change her rhetoric. Whether she was driven by genuine concern for animals or personal political beliefs, her words had lasting consequences. Brigitte Bardot's life after retirement was nothing like the whirlwind of fame she once knew. She stepped away from the cameras and lived on her own terms, finding stability in unexpected places. In 1992, she married Bernard Dormal, a businessman with strong political ties. Their relationship was unlike anything she had before, quiet, private, and lasting. They met in July, and within weeks, they were married during a trip to Norway. It was a stark contrast to her past romances, which were filled with headlines and drama. Unlike Gunter Sachs, who once dropped thousands of roses on her home from a helicopter, Dormale offered something different: simplicity and companionship. He even encouraged Bardot to reconnect with her estranged son, Nicolas, though that proved to be a complicated effort. Over 30 years later, their marriage remains her longest and most stable. Her relationship with Nicolas Jacques Charrier was never easy. Born in 1960 during her marriage to actor Jacques Charrier, he grew up without her. After their divorce, Bardot gave up custody, and Nicolas was raised by his father. She had always struggled with the idea of motherhood, once describing her pregnancy as feeling like she had a cancerous tumor. That sentiment left deep wounds. When Nicolas was 12, he asked to stay with her for a while, but she turned him away, citing social commitments. He never forgot that. As an adult, he built a life far from hers, working in economics and later programming. When he married in 1984, he didn't invite Bardot to the wedding. The distance between them became more than just emotional. It was physical, too. He moved to Norway, and even when Bardot visited in the 90s to make amends, all they managed was a cold truce. The tension exploded in 1997 when Nicholas and his father sued Bardot for revealing personal family details in her memoirs. The court ruled in their favor, ordering Bardot to pay damages. Today, Nicholas prioritizes his own family over any lingering connection with his mother. Bardot has expressed regret, but some wounds never heal. Health battles became another defining part of her later years. At some point before 1985, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She underwent surgery and radiation treatment, but she kept it all a secret. While many public figures use their illnesses to raise awareness, Bardot did the opposite. She refused to turn it into a spectacle, choosing instead to continue her animal rights activism without drawing attention to her own struggles. The cancer didn't stop her. She recovered, and the world barely knew it had ever happened. After retiring from acting in the early 1970s, Bardot retreated to La Madrague, her estate near Saint-Tropez. She had bought the property at the height of her fame in 1958, but by the time she stepped away from Hollywood, it became her sanctuary. Fame had turned suffocating. She was tired of being chased by fans, tired of the endless scrutiny. She wanted peace, and she found it in solitude. While Saint-Tropez remained a playground for the rich and famous, partly because of her influence, Bardot herself had no interest in the parties or the attention. She dedicated herself entirely to animal rights, launching organizations and fighting against practices like seal hunting and bullfighting. Public appearances became rare. Even in Saint-Tropez, where she had once been the ultimate symbol of glamour, she was hardly ever seen.